Hi everyone. Um, this is going to be one of 3 videos as part of a short Gangstalker psychology series. This first video here is talking about the first tenet of Gangstalker psychology, which is anonymity. Now, anonymity revolves around the concealment of one's identity through one way or another. Now, when we think of anonymity, we think of somebody whose name we don't know, who we've never seen, and things like that. But anonymity doesn't just work on a basic linear principle of concealing your name and concealing your personal information. It also means concealing your real self. I've written a full thesis here that explains it in kind of more detail. So allow me to read you what I've written here. There are more ways than one in which to remain anonymous. Anonymity doesn't just revolve around hiding away from the public and being as secretive as possible. In fact, it goes hand in hand with parading yourself in public and on social media in terms of drawing attention to yourself, especially if people have already seen you. No, true anonymity revolves around 1, playing small, 2, doing so around the right people, and 3, being just about honest enough to keep others believing in you even as you lie to them. Now, we call that another name. Usually, we don't usually call that anonymity, or we don't usually call that self-concealment. What we usually call that are one of 2 things. The first one is decompartmentalizing, meaning you're one face out there and another in here. And another word that, another term we call for it is social etiquette, making sure that in all ways you are as quiet, simple and elegant, or at the very least blending into your environment. This means that anything eccentric or daring about a person, or conversely, anything deathly quiet and utterly reserved, basically anything about you that stands out is noticeable if it's not kept to an absolute minimum. Now, when you're a TI, anything about you that stands out and isn't in line with blending and social etiquette, the stalkers will amplify with subtle gaslighting, taunts and smear campaigns. See, with me, I talk to myself a lot. This is something that I've done throughout my entire life, like almost throughout my entire life. And the reason I've done that is so that I can, deal with negative emotions that, oftentimes I used to find that very, very difficult to deal with. Sometimes I still do. I used to have a lot of anxiety when negative emotions came up, and it's not necessarily other people's behavior, but it was my processing of it. I'm a very sensitive person, so the slightest bit of conflict, used to make me like, never used to like it. So, I talk to myself and I imagine scenarios where I'm solving the problem, and find ways of solving the problem that helps me to be able to process what I'm feeling emotionally and process a way around it. So thank God I have this camera now. Otherwise, I'd just be a lunatic for the rest of my life. Speaking of which, I was called Mad Girl a lot. This was a nickname given to me in the first neighborhood I lived in, like the first permanent home I lived in, which was about 15, 16. I started getting that name a few years later. Then it picked up when I moved back to my old neighborhood, like in my 20s as an adult. So I was called Mad Girl, but in the first neighborhood, like you're talking about teens onwards, there was more of an indifference there rather than like a complete and utter malice. There was more like an indifference in that neighborhood. It was only when I got to my dad's and my adulthood that the bullying became worse, and the taunting became worse, and the gaslighting became worse. One could say that it falls perfectly in line with, when I actually became aware that gangstalking was happening. So it was only after gangstalking started happening that the Mad Girl taunt started to pick up speed. And they especially liked to try and use that against me because they knew it made me upset, and they knew that as soon as they started taunting that I would call them all the names under the sun, and they didn't like being called the names under the sun, so they just taunt me more. You'd think once somebody curses you out to the point where I have, like, you should stop talking, but obviously they don't learn. So, like I said before, they called me that, and there was more hatred in the second neighborhood as an adult than in the first neighborhood. And it picked up speed with the gang stalking. So over here they call me that now, even though they have no previous understanding of where that term comes from or what brought it up or whatever. All they've got is the word of somebody that told them that instructed them to make that taunt and to engage in the gang stalking. That's the only reference they have for it. Otherwise, so there's a point to this. Stay with me. These people have used my odd habits and malaise to discredit me and to try and take away my anonymity so that they can cover their covert abuse against me, their gaslighting, their mini vandalism, all the rest of it. So that taunt has become a disclaimer for their own behavior. Do you understand what I'm saying? I've got this really odd habit. There's obviously like something wrong with me. So they've taken that and they've used it to be able to cover their own selves and to cover their own back. When you do that, when you use somebody else's flaws and you put all your focus on their flaws and you put all your focus on what you're actually doing is protecting yourself from being seen. That's what these stalkers do a lot. They want to protect themselves from being seen. So they give these their victims this image of being mad and crazy because they don't want other people to see them for what they really are. Now, they take away your anonymity to preserve their anonymity, as I said before. They hide behind your flaws in order to conceal theirs, which means they do things to you that are not so nice, such as the gaslighting and the smear campaigns, which is a sort of double whammy of psychological abuse and isolation. I'm just going to make this clear. This is why a lot of TIs and a lot of other videos will advocate, don't talk to yourself, don't laugh to yourself, don't be too loud, have your windows open, be nice to everyone. That's why the TIs advise that you do this, so that you can blend in better. And when you blend in better, people are more inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt. Now, the reason why TIs advise you do this, a lot of other TIs advise you do this, is not because they want you to be subdued or what they want to help you. They want to help you. As a TI, they want to help you. That's their whole reason for saying things like that. Blend in. Don't, you got to play the game. You got to play the game. Like, watch the film They Live. That's a perfect example. You got to play the game. Don't be too, outspoken or whatever. They want to help you and they want to help you survive. That's why the TIs tell you this. Because they want to help you to survive and help you to kind of get through this as easily and as painlessly as possible. The only thing I will say about that is that it only works if that's who you are. Okay? If it's not who you are, if it's not how you work, if it's not your method and your way of doing things, then it's not going to work for you. You have to literally be the kind of person that can blend in without making an effort, without any sort of effort, without any sort of talking up. You have to be that kind of person. And that brings me to the best form of anonymity that you can have as a TI. The best form of you being able to protect yourself. The best way of being able to protect your identity, which is what anonymity is all about, protecting your identity. The best way to protect your identity is the truth, is to be 100% authentic and yourself at all times. And once you have that, you cannot be beaten. Whatever happens to you, the truth will always reveal itself. David Icke had his anonymity taken away from him more than a generation ago when he came out with these supposedly wild theories that we're living in an Orwellian society. 25 years later, he's got new age twerps and undercover agents trying to curry favor with us through trying to curry favor with him. So, and on top of that, he's not dead yet. Why is he not dead? A lot of people are asking why he's not dead. I think even David himself is confused by it, but I think I know what the answer is. The answer is that David was honest and sincere throughout this whole thing. He never budged on his principles. He never budged on anything. Now the truth's coming out. So he never budged on anything. He was right about a lot of what he was saying, and he never budged. He never budged on his opinions. And everything that came out, everything that he said like 25 years ago turned out to be correct. More than 25 years ago turned out to be correct. Now, if they tried to kill David Icke, it would raise too many questions. The only way that they can, that anyone can try and discredit him now is to keep him alive and unharmed. That's the only way they can have any chance of discrediting him now. Because if they kill him off, people are going to start asking questions. That is the protection, the layer of protection that you have around you when you are honest. As a TI, you have to be the same way. You have to be honest about your experiences. You have to speak up about your experiences, and you must not budge. No matter what they're saying, no matter what they tell you, you can't budge. You must be authentic with yourself and other people. You must tell the truth about everything you are experiencing. Because when you get right down to it, anonymity is, we live in a world of deception. And anonymity is just one more way in which that lie is maintained. Okay? There's no need to be anonymous in a truthful and just world. Anonymity is a lie. It's just another way for the gangstalkers to lie. In concealing who they really are to the people that they hang around, they effectively lie. They are lying to themselves. They are lying to the people around them. And it's something that as a TI you must not do. You must not budge on your principles, and you must not lie to yourself. So that's anonymity. That's the anonymity video done. One thing I want to leave you with is this. When you are truthful, you blow the stalker's lies wide open, whether you know it or not. So have faith, and don't ever let them tell you to stop speaking out or stop it. Take no notice of these backwards people who want to say whatever they want to say to try and discredit you. And certainly don't take the word of a stalker seriously. I'm going to tell you more about that later. But anyway, to my fellow TIs, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay blessed, and look after yourselves.